Hi, I'm Don the Dragon Wilson, and you're listening to Joseph Clark at Martial Arts World Radio.
Welcome to Martial Arts World Radio. I'm your host, Joseph Clark. Each episode, we speak to stars of the UFC, Bellator, Olympic martial arts medalists, cinema stars, and legends and icons of classical martial arts. Over the next hour, we will feature Bellator fighter Chinzo Machida, also martial arts champion, action cinema star, and formerly the #1 ranked karate fighter in the U.S., KEITH VITALI. And Sifu Alan Goldberg, Kung Fu master, publisher of Action Martial Arts Magazine, and organizer of the Final Destination for MMA and Martial Arts Expo, which is taking place at the end of this week at the Tropicana Casino Hotel in Atlantic City. This week's inspirational quote is from Muhammad Ali, and it goes as follows: "He who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life." Muhammad Ali, 1942 to 2016. Here is a clip from a guest of Martial Arts World Radio, Steve Nasty Anderson, on overcoming negative conditioning and discouragement from others.
My game plan was, okay, I'm not as strong. I was very strong. I'm not as fast. I was very fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to outwork everybody. If I train every day, 365 days a year, Christmas and New Year's especially, then I shouldn't lose. I shouldn't lose psychologically, mentally, in my mind. How could I lose? Because I've trained on Christmas and New Year's. And I would always go up to those guys, Billy and all the rest of them, and I'd ask them, what did they do Christmas, and did they have a good time? And they would tell me that they didn't train on Christmas or they didn't train on New Year's or something like that, and I would say, well, I'm supposed to win. I know that doesn't always happen, but that's the thought process I had. And mentally, if you tell yourself that you're better than everybody else and you're supposed to win, your chances of winning is a lot higher.
Master Alan Goldberg is the publisher of Action Martial Arts Magazine and the organizer of the Final Destination for MMA and Martial Arts Expo, which is taking place this January 27th to 29th at the Tropicana Casino Resort and Hotel in Atlantic City. Alan, welcome to Martial Arts World Radio.
Joe Clark, how are you? It's a pleasure to be on your show again.
I'm well, and it's a real pleasure to have you here as well, Alan. Now, Alan, before we get into the event, I understand that as a Sifu, you are quite particular about who you train. Please tell us about one of your students, heavyweight fighter Demetrius Oaktree Edwards, who I believe was a sparring partner to Mike Tyson.
Yeah, it's a story that many people don't know. He was actually up for the fight with Leon Spinks before Mike Tyson took the championship, and his contract was destroyed because Mike Tyson was coming up as more of a fine, polished fighter. So my guy Oaktree had lost that title shot, could have been the world champion. But years later, he became a sparring partner for Mike Tyson and bruised his ribs up right before the Holyfield fight. And that's, if you remember, back in '91, they canceled the fight because of that. And to this day, Oaktree's 63 years old. He looks like a champ, still walks like a champ, and is out there still practicing like you wouldn't want to get punched with him. We'll just put it that way. At 63 years old. God bless him. And could have been a champion.
God bless him is right. I'm sure I wouldn't want to get punched by him. And you're the publisher of Action Martial Arts Magazine. Would you tell us about that?
Yeah, doing it 25 years. We went on a little hiatus this year because of some sickness problems and stuff, but we're coming back very strong right after my event. And the magazine was actually something that we put together as just to be tri-state even, and we went international with it. We've done over 84 issues already. And we've covered some of the greats. We actually went the grassroots way, though. We didn't do all the movie stars. And that's what made us very successful. And it was free. That's another thing.
That always helps.
Yeah.
Alan, this week is a big week. Please tell us about the Expo taking place beginning this Friday at the Tropicana in Atlantic City.
Oh, well, okay. I head down actually tomorrow night. I'll be down in Atlantic City setting up. We get down there. It is literally the largest martial event in the world. Right now our dinner is booked to over 900 people. We'll probably hit 1,000 by the time the dinner comes around. We are one of the largest piece of business in Atlantic City is a black tie event. We're the largest piece of business in the Tropicana. We run 16 events from tournaments, seminars, trade show, all different type of, kids tournaments and things like that. And so it's something there for everyone. We have 16 events, so if you can't find something, then what can I tell you?
And how many years have you done the event?
This will be our 17th year. We're pretty successful from every event we've thrown, but I will tell you, it's, other people have tried to do what I do, and 1 or 2 years they fall by the wayside because they don't realize how much work really has to be put into this. I work on this thing a whole year, and if I tell you my nights go into 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, then from September on, just an amazing amount of work. But we've done something very different than anyone else has ever done.
You certainly have. How many attendees on average would attend the event?
Well, we're probably looking at our trade show and expo anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 attendees coming throughout the weekend. We have the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu crowd, a karate crowd, Kung Fu, MMA crowd. We have a stick fighting crowd. So we always have new people coming from every direction in the martial art world. And we're not prejudiced in any way. We want everyone to come. If you don't come to the dinner, you can still come to the trade show. That's held Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the amazing price of $45 for a 3-day pass, which gives you over 60 free seminars by some of the world's greatest.
And Alan, in terms of celebrities, who are you anticipating will attend this year?
Well, we have Mark Henry from the WWE, Tito Santana. We have Don the Dragon, Cynthia Rothrock. Unfortunately, my friend Bill Wallace, for one of the first years, won't be there. He had a little something to do, let's just put it that way. And we have Michael J. White, Hank Garrett, Gary Tagawa. That's just to name a few.
And Alan, are there still tickets available for those who wish to attend?
Yes, right. I have right now about 22 dinner tickets that probably are available. I'm holding some aside for some other people, but that's why we're pretty confident we'll hit over 1,000 people. And so 22 tickets. People want to come down. That gives you a Friday night VIP party also. And trade show and expo, we take them. We have a big enough room to take as many as we need.
And how do our listeners go about purchasing tickets?
They can go online to hohmega.com. That'll be open till Thursday night. It closes down Thursday. At that point, they can purchase tickets at the front door, 4th floor on the North Tower.
And that's hohmega.com.
Correct.
Alan, I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you once again for joining us.
I appreciate it. And we'll meet up very soon. So.
This has been a discussion with Alan Goldberg of Action Martial Arts Magazine and the final destination for MMA and Martial Arts Expo.
Hi, this is Olympic bronze medalist in judo, Marty Malloy, and you're listening to Martial Arts World Radio.
The last time that I was in Los Angeles, California, I had the privilege of speaking with a gentleman named Elliot Altman. Now, Elliot is an international businessman and lifetime martial arts student who spends a great deal of time in Thailand. His styles are Kenpo Kung Fu, Taekwondo, and Karate. I received a letter recently, or email rather, from Elliot, which I wanted to share with you. He says, I battled cancer recently, and being a martial artist made me physically stronger and mentally stronger. It absolutely helped how I approached my cancer treatment. Elliot, thank you so much for your email, and I do look forward to meeting up in person again real soon when I'm in Los Angeles. But congratulations on your victory against cancer. Obviously, the fight of a lifetime, and I'm so glad to have received your email. Thank you so much for sending it, and we wish you all the very best. God bless.
This is UFC fighter Jason Sago. You are now listening to Martial Arts World Radio with Joseph Clark.
For those of you listening to Martial Arts World Radio while on your phones, tablets, or laptops, be sure to check out bobwallworldblackbelt.com, the world's foremost martial arts online community. Chinzo Machida is a professional MMA fighter with Bellator who fights out of Salvador, Bahia, Brazil. He is 39 years of age, 5 foot 9 inches, and 145 pounds, fighting in the featherweight category. He has a record of 5 wins and 2 losses. He comes from a karate background. I interviewed Chinzo last week leading up to his fight with Hamar Ocampo at Bellator 170 this past weekend, where Chinzo was victorious by way of a knockout. Chinzo Machida, welcome to Martial Arts World Radio. Thanks so much for joining us.
Okay, please, my pleasure.
How are you feeling about your approaching fight at Bellator 170?
I feel very good. I had a good camp, more than 10 weeks, and so I feel very comfortable and feel very confident to this fight. So I feel good. I feel my technique is good now. So I'm ready. I'm ready for the fight.
This is your second fight with Bellator on Spike TV in Los Angeles. Very exciting. What level of excitement are you feeling at this point?
Yeah, I'm so excited because I had a good fight the last time at the Bellator. So that gave me the upgrade, and I feel more confident for my second fight. And I'm really looking forward for that. You know, I'm very excited to show my technique, to show my skill inside of the cage.
What are you anticipating from your opponent, Hamar Ocampo, at Bellator 170?
And my background is karate, so I think we're gonna start fight standing, but I think he's looking forward to give the fight to the ground, because he's a specialist in jiu-jitsu. But at the same time, I'm prepared for stand, takedowns, and on the ground as well.
Chinzo, how did the training and preparation for this fight differ from your training and preparation from your fight with Mario Navarro?
Actually, in the first 5 weeks, the preparation is the same for the fight. If I'm gonna fight for another fight, I'm gonna do the first weeks. I'm gonna do the same preparation. And the last month, actually, I focus more in my opponents. Which my opponents has his background, where he's come from, what he do more. Where he does more, like takedowns or jiu-jitsu or stand. I prepare more for the situation. So 1 month ago, I started to prepare for him, but actually I already started my camp training for more than 10 weeks ago.
Chinzo, in a recent interview, you went on record as saying that your fight style differed from your brother's insofar as you went on the offense more and were more aggressive. Out of the two of you, who would you say is the more strategic fighter?
Yeah, I'm a reaction guy. I respond accordingly with my opponent. So depends on my opponent's gonna give me something. But also at the same time, I'm looking forward to be more offensive because I look for the distance, look for the time. And if I see the opportunity, I'm gonna throw my technique. So I'm gonna do some counter technique as well. But even when I do my karate techniques in the karate tournament, I'm gonna do this way. I'm gonna do I'm looking for my techniques and to become more offensive.
Oh, we're really looking forward to it, Chinzo. It's going to be an exciting fight. At what age did you begin taking formal karate training?
Yeah, since when I was 4 years old, I started training karate under my dad. So, but at the beginning, it's just for play, And when I was about 10, 12 years old, I take karate more seriously. So, and I started to compete in the karate tournament actually when I was 12 years old.
So you began competing at the age of 12. Chinzo, do you notice a difference in MMA between how North American fighters fight or Western fighters fight versus South American fighters or MMA fighters from Brazil?
Yeah, actually, usually the guys from America, they have good wrestling. And the Brazilians fight, they have like a Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu techniques. So it's a little different because usually the American fighters, they used to be good and put the guys down like as a takedown, so as a wrestling, as something like that, no. And then Brazilian fighters, they focus more in Jiu-Jitsu. They are good in Jiu-Jitsu and in Muay Thai.
It would seem in MMA today that a lot of fighters now are taking a very low-risk, orthodox, conservative approach to fighting. Do you take a conservative approach, or do you generally try to be unpredictable? You've thrown some wicked flying knees. Do you feel that flying knees, spinning back fists, some unorthodox technique comes in handy to be unpredictable and to keep your opponent guessing?
No, because I'm very basic karate, but when I see the opportunity during the fight, I adapted my technique to that situation. So, for example, if my fight that I throw the fly knee because the guy wants to take me down all the time. So I saw the opportunity that he wants to shoot again, and I throw the fly knee. But usually I don't do the fly knee all the time. No, I don't used to do that. I never did that before during the fight. But that time I saw the opportunity because he puts his head so low, and shoot me all the time. So I saw the opportunity and I land the fly knee. So it depends that's what my opponent is gonna give me during the fight. No, not like predictable. I'm gonna do this or that. No, for sure I have a plan, but sometimes the plan has to change during the fight.
Chinzo, you have been a point karate champion, and you are now a professional mixed martial artist. In terms of training and preparation, how do the two differ?
Yeah, the point karate, you looking for time and distance, but after your technique, you stop. So in MMA, no. Just stop when you knock the guy out or when you submit the guy. So it's the most hard part you have to training because you used to do like a punch karate and you're going to stop. But in MMA, you never stop until you knock the guy out. So I think we have adapted the karate for the real combat. Is like in Japanese, the name is a zanshin. Zanshin is to be aware all the time. So even the after technique, you have to be aware because some techniques can come from your opponent. Or maybe you can need to throw two or three more techniques after your good technique. So I think the biggest challenge is the guys come from karate points is that.
Who are the influences in your life who inspire you and provide motivation, encouragement, and support?
Yeah, for sure, my dad is a big influence in my life because he's a karate master and he showed as his example about as a man, as a fighter, as a instructor. So for me, he's a huge example of the man and the fighter that I have to follow because he taught us, not just me, but me and my brothers, as overcome the challenges and this kind of thing. So because I think karate and the martial arts is not come about the techniques. It's coming from your mind as well.
Chinzo, your brother Lyoto Machida is or was a world champion with the UFC. I can tell you that if I had a brother who was a world champion, I would probably feel a certain amount of pressure that I had something to prove. Do you feel within your own training camp and within your own family that you have something to prove as a mixed martial artist?
No, as the last time, many journalists, I had many questions about that because my brother is very famous. He's a former UFC champion. So he's a very successful guy in the MMA fight. But I think you have a different career. You have a different time. And I never compare my life and my professional life and my professional career and my MMA career with his life and with his career. I think each one has his own way. So I think it's not good. No, I prefer don't compare that because each one has your time and your way.
I can appreciate and respect that answer, Chinzo. Well done. Chinzo, your preparation for a fight, is it strictly physical or are there psychological or even spiritual aspects to your preparation for an approaching fight?
Yeah, I prepare for three very important things. In Japanese, you can say Shin, Gi, Tai. Shin is mean mind. Gi is mean technique. And Tai is a physical aspect. So I prepare mind, technique, and body. So I think these three, if you combine these three very important elements, so you're able to have a good success in your career and your fights. I'm not saying about the win or loss, but I can do a very good job if I do that.
Chinzo, our final question for the interview, and I really appreciate your time today. Advice for our listeners on keeping their courage and their champion's heart when they're recovering from a recent defeat.
Yeah, I think you have to prepare your mind, you have to prepare technique, and keep it doing. I think if you think in the right way, you have to keep this and persist every single day. Because little by little you're gonna improve, day by day you're gonna improve. So, but take time. It takes time to be good. I think you have to prepare your mind first, but as I mentioned before, the technique and body, you have to combine everything together.
Chinzo Machida, thank you so much for speaking with us today, and we wish you the best of success on your approaching fight and your ongoing professional fight career.
Thank you so much.
This has been an interview with Bellator fighter Chinzo Machida.
This is UFC fighter Alex Ricci. You are listening to Martial Arts World Radio with Joseph Clark.
Martial Arts World Radio is distributed worldwide on a network which includes broadcast stations, internet radio stations, podcast platforms, listen-on-demand channels, and social networks. If you'd like to add your station to our network of over 60 affiliates, or if you wish to sponsor the show, reach out to me by email at producer@mawradio.com. Keith Vitali is an American martial artist, actor, producer, author, and child activist. He was considered the #1 ranked karate competitor in the U.S. during his competitive karate circuit career. His number of wins landed him in honored place in Black Belt Magazine's Black Belt Hall of Fame in 1981. He has been featured in hundreds of martial arts magazines, and he has starred in martial art films opposite Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Benny the Jet Urquidez, and also Don Johnson, Cheech Moran, and Sho Kosugi. Keith Vitali, welcome to Martial Arts World Radio. So good to have you here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Keith, you were a world champion martial artist. In fact, at one point in your career, you were the #1 ranked karate fighter in the world. And yet you discovered martial arts in university, which is rather late in life for a world champion. Would you please tell us about how you first got introduced to karate?
Yes, I was currently at the time I was on a track scholarship, and It was with the College of Charleston in South Carolina, and I was a distance runner. And you can imagine all that distance running, the mile run across country, all of that paid residual effects down the road, especially when you translated that to martial arts. But I came back after the first year, and running is not fun. I was just good at running, but it wasn't a fun sport. And then I had a high school buddy, John Bellinger, came over to the house and wanted to take me over to meet his karate instructor. Now, this is in 71 when karate was an infant in the United States, and I had never even heard of karate. So I went over, I met his instructor, John Roper, and the amazing thing is this, after maybe 2 hours of watching him in class, meeting the instructor, talking with him, I was so overwhelmed, it's the only word I can think of. It's like going to the Vatican in Rome. You just go in and all your senses are just overwhelmed. I had just never seen anybody use their legs before. And I watched two people work out, and I just couldn't believe it. So the instructor came over, and he was a hardcore Korean, just a badass, and I love him. But he came over, and he hit me in the chest to show me how the punch is actually delivered. And I just said, oh, my gosh, I've got to do this. And he goes, listen, if you want to come to the University of South Carolina, I'll be glad to teach you. I went home, called my track coach up, dropped my scholarship in one day. I totally dropped my scholarship. That's how obsessed I was. I drove over the next day. I went to the admissions in South Carolina, University of South Carolina, went to the school, got admitted, applied and got admitted, and started taking karate. Within 2 years, I was a black belt. But what's so incredible about 2 years, it was the hardest 2 years of my life because in the 70s, karate was different than it is now. There wasn't so much as a reinforcement type of teaching, which I totally believe in. But he was an old school Korean, and it was just very hard on the students. And so I never heard the word good or that was done well, anything, never, not one positive reinforcement until the day I got my black belt. Once I got my black belt, he pulled me to the side and he says, I'm going to tell you something. Only 10% of the black belts in the country are any good. And he says, and I really believe you're one of those top 10%. Now, I'm so naive. I'm thinking 100% of black belts are fantastic. Everyone I've ever heard of, I mean, they're all great. Little did I know that it's true then, it's probably true now. You just have that top 10% or whatever. But I just remember that when I left the University of South Carolina, and Joe Corley gave me a job teaching in Atlanta, Georgia, I made myself a promise, even though I really respected my karate instructor. I said, I'll never, ever follow his teaching. I will never treat people the way he treated people. It was just old school, push-ups, being beat, kicked, hit, slapped. I mean, that was just the way it was back then, knuckle push-ups. Gear won't be invented for another 3 years, and I'm fairly tall, so I'm always fighting the heavier weights. And so I just remembered that when I first got to Joe Corley's in Atlanta and started teaching, one of the things I really researched and started, and I know I was one of the pioneers, I think I'm happier about that than in my trophies, is that I really worked on reinforcement, teaching kids and positive reinforcement. And I turned out by being a good instructor and reinforcing people by their hard efforts. And I would say things, good work and good job. And if a student was making an incorrect punch, for example, I would go to that student and I would, ruffle his hair and go, Johnny, you're looking great today. And then I would correct his punch, and then I'd give another positive. Oh, that's wonderful, and then move away. And that was my system, and that's how I incorporated my teaching. And then it just had an effect on me the rest of my life. That positive reinforcement is what I think all kids needed. And so, like I said, I was very proud of the fact that, I totally went against the grain when I got to Atlanta and just changed the whole style of teaching.
So, Keith, at what time did you really get discovered and really come of age in the karate competition circuit?
I was surrounded by people in South Carolina and Columbia that were so phenomenal that were coming up with me. Mike Geneva was one, Bruce Brucci, all these phenomenal people, Andy Seltzer. These guys were just so good, and they took me under their wing, and we trained. And because of them, I got to the point to where one day they came to me and said, we think you've gone far enough, you've gone far as you're ever going to go in Columbia, South Carolina. And at the time, I didn't even know what they meant. But as a group came up to me and they said, we'd like to invite you to go and fight in a national tournament called the Battle of Atlanta. And at the time, I was only fighting in a couple small local tournaments and really just doing nationals. And I was doing well. I was winning my share. But just, here, one there. But now I'm a brand new black belt, and they said, come with us. So we all get in cars, and we head over to Atlanta, Georgia, and I walk in, and there's 2,000 competitors. I had never seen anything like it. It was phenomenal. And I just remember it was my first experience at a national tournament. And get this, my first fight, I'm fighting a phenomenal, great fighter. I have no idea what his name is, but I'll always remember what he looks like because he was one of Radar Smith's students. And Radar Smith was sitting there coaching him. And he literally, for the first 2 minutes of my first fight ever, he beat me like I was a white belt. And he kept on beating me and hitting me, and I just couldn't figure out how to fight this guy. I was like, and in my mind I was thinking, perhaps I'm not that good. Maybe this is fun, but I'm a local guy, and I probably won't do that well. Well, there was 10 seconds to go in the match, the first round, and I was losing 4-0. But it felt like 20-0 because he was just really taking advantage of me. And then they had a rule only that year, a jump spinning swing kick, you got 4 points. There was 10 seconds to go in the match, and I said, what the hell? I did a fake, I jumped, I swung, and I landed my jump spinning kick. Now it's 4-4. I got 4 points for doing that. And then they said, within still 2 seconds to go, I threw a back fist and I won. So I won my first match, thinking I was the worst black belt in the world. I win all my other matches. I make it to the finals that night, and the guy comes over to me and he goes, do you know who you fought today? And I went, I don't know anything. And he took out a magazine, and it was one of the first martial arts magazines. He opened it up, and he goes, out of the top 10 fighters in the world, you beat 4 of them today. And I went, I had no idea. Larry Carnahan's, Ken Dallas's, Michael Cole, all these great fighters that were rated. I had no clue because I've never been on the circuit. And then I fought Bobby Tucker for the finals, and I lost. Bobby was just too fast for me that day. It's my first national tournament. But what it showed me was that it gave me confidence that I was just as good as most of these people, but especially if you don't know who they are, then you're not tentative. And I always kept that in the back of my mind going, just treat everybody like you can beat them, and just don't be tentative. Don't have a preconceived notion. Just be first. So that was my attitude when I was fighting.
Thank you for that, Keith. What a great story. It basically plays out like a Hollywood script. You couldn't write it. And I'm hearing some common themes of positive reinforcement, self-confidence, realization, and self-reassurance. So great story. Now, as you were competing and as you were going through the various dans as a black belt, were there other fighters in black belts who you held in high regard?
Right. Yes, they did. And what I really loved was karate magazines. And I run to the store, and I couldn't wait for Karate Illustrated or Michael magazine to come out. And, it's a different era. It was a martial arts world back then. It's a whole different era. And you get the magazines, you open them up, and you go, oh, my gosh, there's Bill Wallace and Joe Louis. My favorite, I love Jeff Smith. These are all great friends of mine, and I love them. But Chuck Norris was my hero. Why? Because I'm about 6 foot, 150. Chuck Norris is about the same. And he's like Joe Montana, the football quarterback for the 49ers back in the old days. He didn't have the best speed. He wasn't the biggest. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't any of that. He was just simply the best quarterback because he used his mind. And then I said, well, I'm going to kind of mold myself after setting up my techniques. My biggest nemesis locally was Bobby Tucker. When I fought in the national tournament, of course, it was Ray McCallum. But Bobby Tucker was so extremely fast. He was the fastest human being on this planet. And he would ask me sometimes, he goes, why are you setting your techniques up? I said, well, Bobby, how do you do it? He goes, I see an opening and I just explode. And he was truly the fastest person. He should have been in the circus. Whereas I was fast. I had people that couldn't believe my speed, but not Bobby Tucker's speed. And what I would do is I set my techniques up. And I was smart enough to film my fights with the old Super 8 millimeters, and I had friends like Mike Geneva, and we'd come back and we'd watch our fights, and I'd go, you know something, I know what I can do to stop that, or I know how to beat that guy. And then one thing I would do when I go to tournaments, because of my cardiovascular, I did this from day one, and I did it my whole career. While everybody's warming up, I go introduce myself to somebody. Well, first I wouldn't introduce myself. I just go up and go, would you mind warming up? And I'd warm up, and when you warm up, you're learning techniques, and I would do that. I go, thank you, and I go to the next guy. I made sure I warmed up 8 different people every tournament of my career, because I always thought if I lost my first fight, at least it was a learning experience. At least I fought 8 different people from 8 different styles. And then pretty soon, you know, it was just something, but I had the cardiovascular to do that. I was in such good shape at all times. I could do 8 rounds before I can even enter the ring when I was doing that.
Keith, now moving into your cinema career, how did Hollywood discover you?
That's a good story. No, I didn't speak anything. I was fortunate. I was on maybe 13 different martial arts covers. I was on so many covers one year in a couple of years. And if you open up the magazine, there'd be 3 or 4 tournaments I had either won or placed in inside the magazine. So I had one organization accused me of buying. They said, you're buying your covers and buying your stories. You're into so much. And then this organization, when I met with them, I said, all you have to do is beat me. I promise you, if you beat me, you'll be on the cover and you'll be in the magazine. That's ludicrous for you even to say that. But I was in my karate school in Atlanta, Georgia, Joe Karate School at the time. And my wife was, at the time, not my wife, she was working in the office. And she comes out, and I'm out on the mat. She comes out and she says, you have a phone call. So I take a phone call, and this person says, my name is Priscilla McDonald from Canon Films. And I'd like to give you a 3-movie deal. And I laughed, and I said, tell Mike Geneva to kiss my ass, and I hung up the phone, and I went back out teaching class. Because that's what Mike Geneva does. He's my best friend, and he plays pranks all the time. I mean, this is typical Mike Geneva. So I go back out in the class, and then the phone rings, and Kathy comes back and grabs me again, and I go back in, and she goes, I get the phone, and this Priscilla McDonald says, excuse me, my name is Priscilla McDonald. I don't know who this Mike guy is, but do not hang up on me again. I'm here to offer you a 3-movie contract with Canon Films. And I went, for real? I mean, I almost blew it because of Mike Geneva. But anyway, I go out there. I had no training. I took an acting class for about a month and went out there and got with Sho Kasugi, and I met a guy named Steven Lambert, who was the stunt coordinator, who was phenomenal, and he kind of took me in his wing as well. And it was something, because my first movie was a bigger-than-life kind of a movie. Revenge of the Ninja was so violent and gory that I couldn't believe the movie would even get out. I just couldn't believe anybody would ever pay money to go see a movie like that. That was my thinking.
That is a priceless story. And, of course, Revenge of the Ninja actually ended up being an incredible success as your first film.
We have a premiere, and MGM picked it up. First movie that a major company studio picked up. So not only did they pick the film up, they put it in every theater in the United States. They took out full-page ads. I had full-page ads of Revenge of the Ninja, and then they had a premiere they staged here in Atlanta for me, and they had also a premiere in Los Angeles. And I went, oh, my gosh, this is incredible. My first movie got a theatrical release, and I remember I've got a copy of it. Within a couple of weeks, we were the 3rd leading gross movie for that week. And there was movies like Star Wars, Risky Business. I mean, you should have seen the list of these movies on there, and we were number 3 for that week. It was incredible. After that movie, there became a ninja craze, and then the world went ninja nuts. I mean, and it's because of that one film. Sho Kasugi was phenomenal in that film. He was really good, and he choreographed that film. He worked on it for about a year, and he knew what he wanted to do, and they were right. Just looking at from the blind eye, you really can't tell about a movie. But it was phenomenal. Whereas when I did the movie with Benny Urquidez and Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung, Yong Bao, I knew watching it, it was the single best thing I had ever seen. There was no editing, there was no soundtracks, there was no nothing, but just pure athletic ability and technique, and you would just sit there and just totally be amazed how great all of those guys were.
I have interviewed Benny the Jet Urquidez a couple of times on this show, and I met with him in Los Angeles last fall. And at that time, we talked about collaborating on a book together. And I said to him, you must realize that your fight in the film Wheels on Meals with Jackie Chan, also starring yourself, Keith, is looked upon as probably one of the top 10, if not the top 5 best choreographed cinema fight scenes. So that must have been an incredible privilege and thrill for you to be working on that film with Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan and Benny the Jet. Please tell us more about that.
It was, it's like 101 is phenomenal. Get this, my first name is Jackie Chan, and I haven't done anything yet. Sammo's there setting up the camera, and he's behind the camera, and Jackie comes over to me, ready. There's literally 100 people getting ready. They're walking out in the courtyard, and the cameras are set up. And I looked at Jackie, and I said, Jackie, am I ready for what? You haven't showed me anything yet. And he sat down and on a bench, and he goes, Keith, throw some of your kicks. And I started throwing kicks. As I'm kicking, he took his hands to his lap, and he started playing the drums, but in a beat. You could go like rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, what I'm doing is, he says, you have wonderful kicks, you have beautiful kicks. He says, I am trying to put a beat, a rhythm to your kicks. He goes, think about this. You have the two best fighters in the world, and they're fighting each other. But there's no rhythm. There's not a beat to the movement. He says, do you know that people watching, for some reason, their subconscious are not going to like what they're seeing? They're not going to understand why they don't like it. Even though you have the two best fighters in the world, kickers in the world, fighting each other. He goes, you see, it's all about rhythm. He says, so I'll design a rhythm, a beat. And I was like going, I swear, if I had a pad and a pen, I would have gone, excuse me, can I write this down? How wonderful was that to be taught by a master like that? And then working with Benny and again, it was rough because there's no SAG rules, and I knocked out Jackie Chan about 8 times in one scene. I knocked out Sammo Hung one time, but then I knocked out Yong Bao and knocked him out with a round kick. I did a jump spinning kick and knocked out Sammo Hung when I was fighting 2-on-1. And then Benny, when I was fighting, Benny and I are against Jackie on the courtyard scene. I kept on hitting my sidekick and catching him too hard and then hurting him. And I'm like going, boy, this is a hard way to make your living. This is pretty tough.
Keith, you were ranked the #1 karate fighter in the world. Was that by design? Was that long-term goals which you were pursuing and planning out strategically? Or were you just taking it one competition at a time?
There's two things. One is, when I first started taking karate, I fell in love. And then when I fell in love, I became obsessed training. And I trained with the very best. I traveled. I've trained with everybody from Joe Louis and Bill Wallace, you name it, Jeff Smith, all these wonderful people. But there was something other than just martial arts. My last name's Vitali, and I'd always go to the encyclopedias, and I'd look up my history of my family, the roots. And I found none. There was somebody back in the 1800s or 800s, someplace in Italy that designed some kind of weapon. And I went, my whole lineage, there's not anybody I can be proud of or take root in. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And then I said, I'm going to be that person. And, now I'm a young guy in college, and I'm not full of myself. I didn't expect to do what I did, but I went, I'm going to do something with my name. And so I put that as an agenda. I wanted to make a name, not for myself, but for my family and for generations. But when somebody goes, Keith Vitali, go, yeah, I'm related to him, or that's my dad. I wanted them to be proud of that. And then I went into the University of South Carolina, and while I'm there, I noticed that there were clubs, and the clubs each received money. So what I did was I went to one of the clubs, and I said, tell me how you got funded by the university for your club. Because we were like a short course. All you did is come after school and take karate. And I was the head instructor at the time. My instructor had left. So they told me how to do it. I wrote the charter, the bylaws. I put everything together. I went in front of the council at USC, and I told them, I said, if you allow me to turn this short course for our karate program into a full-fledged funded club, I will put the University of South Carolina on my back. I will travel, and I'll bring notoriety to your school. And they laughed. They said, you're pretty sure of yourself. And I said, just give me a chance. And they said, well, what do you need? I had already budgeted our trips, tournaments. hotels, food, gas, how many people, and I put enough money to raise enough money for 10 people. They said, go sit outside. An hour later, I come back in. They said, Mr. Vitale, we're going to fund you. And they funded not me. I put a team together, and that team of 10 people, we started traveling and competing. And just college kids. We were enjoying life, chasing women, just having the best time of our life. But in spite of ourselves, when you travel and train with the best, you get better. It's not like you said, I'm going to get better. It just happens. And out of that first team, one of the first collegiate karate programs in the entire nation in the 70s, we had Richard Jackson, who came the number one contender for full contact. John Orrick was number 10 in the nation. I was number 1 in the nation. And Michael Goldman was rated at one time at top 10 in the country. We had 4 people in one 10-man team that went on to be in the top 10 in the world. So we were so fortunate, but again, getting back to your question, it happened in spite of us.
Keith, you are a champion and an advocate for bullying prevention and child activism. Would you please tell us about that?
Well, my first love was always teaching. And while, like at the Battle of Atlanta, while people sometimes specialized in fighting and touring, I had a karate school. I loved teaching, and I loved teaching kids. And, I just had a knack for it. I was very successful doing and teaching. I love taking kids to the tournaments. I love seeing kids grow and develop with the leadership training we were doing. So it was just one of the things where I truly love teaching kids. And then when you start teaching karate, part of that, of course, is dealing with self-defense and bullying. So I came up with an idea one day, and I was very fortunate. I was sitting with my son, and he was watching a movie, and I asked my son, back in the VH days, VH tapes, and I said, Travis, why are you watching this movie over and over? You're driving me crazy. He laughed. He goes, Dad, because they had kids in it. So I went, kids? He goes, yeah, I like watching kids. And I went, do you know something? That's what karate's missing. Every school has their own tape, self-defense. And if you do have self-defense, you're always having it where you learn how to kick somebody in the groin, take out their eyes, chop their neck. Well, guess what? That's not what you teach 8-year-olds and 5-year-olds. So what I did was, within a week, the night before, I wrote a script. I had a friend of mine who was in the production. I said, do you mind getting a video camera and a couple of crew people? I grabbed some of my students and my kids, my daughter and my son, and I went to a playground and I shot a video. And the video was based on the premise that 9 out of 10 times your child is picked on, they're going to be picked on by somebody they know, not a stranger. Stranger danger is a whole different animal. That's different. But usually in school, at playgrounds, at home, you're dealing with people you know. Most of the time, the bully's your brother, your sister. So my concept was, let's develop a system of self-defense without hurting the other child. So I wrote something, I filmed it, no big deal. About 2 months later, I was so overwhelmed. I am on the front page of USA Today. I was in every major newspaper in the United States. It was syndicated. They had a story about my video. I was on the Oprah show as the expert in child defense, and Oprah herself had me on the show and talking about I'm the expert. And then I sold that video not to one karate school in this country. I sold it to Toys R Us, to video stores and Blockbuster. And I remember one day I went with my rep to go sell the video to Blockbusters, all dealing with, it's called Self-Defense for Kids. And it was so simple. 4 kids, and the kids are the actors, and they're doing very simple self-defense techniques without hurting the other child. It's such a simple premise. Nobody had ever thought of it before. And so I remember flying into New Jersey, and I met the owner. We were going to have a meeting with the owner of Blockbusters. And I remember sitting down, and the owner walks in, and he goes, nice to meet you, Mr. Vitale, and shook his hand. He goes, have you seen the paper this morning? I went, no. And he throws it on the desk. There I am on the front page of USA Today. And he looks, I go, I didn't even know it. I went, hey, look at that. It's pretty cool. He goes, it looks like I'm buying, and that's all he said. And then he bought for his stores.
Keith Vitali, thank you for joining us today on Martial Arts World Radio, and we look forward to having you back again real soon.
Well, I'd love to.
This has been an interview with martial artist and film star Keith Vitali. Now, in closing this episode, I'd like to share a letter which I received from one of our listeners, Mercedes Davey, who is a martial artist with a very unique twist. She conducts self-defense seminars at comic book conventions. She delivers these seminars in character as Levi Ackerman from a manga comic book called Attack on Titan. Her seminars draw crowds as large as 120 people in attendance. She also runs this same workshop in high schools as well. Her working title for her workshop is Self-Defense with Haiku. She is also an instructor in Goju Ryu Karate. Dear Joseph, I think that any woman who makes it into martial arts and makes it past black belt should be out there as a role model for young girls and boys coming up. Transgenders too. Anyone who can prove that martial arts is not just a boy sport. You will always have a majority of men in martial arts. However, women competitors open up the doors for many who would be intimidated to take martial arts or even compete. This will make it elevated and reach out to more people, which is exactly what martial arts is supposed to do. It is the growth that people bring to martial arts that make it so great. Yours truly, Mercedes Davey. Mercedes, thank you very much for that letter. And if you wish to send me a message, please feel free to do so at producer@mawradio.com. And be sure to check us out at www.mawradio.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube by following Martial Arts World Radio. I'm Joseph Clark. Thank you for joining us.